So in the last class about management, we saw what is management, what is organization, role of managers, and what do you say, the basic principles of management, like planning, leading, controlling, organizing. These are the four basic underlying principles of management and how they can be applied in the context of library management. So we saw introduction to management in the previous class. So continuing with that, now we are going to discuss the theory part of management. So there are different theories of management. So that is what we are going to discuss in this particular class now. The first is classical and neoclassical theories of management. So there are three theories, namely classical, neoclassical, and modern theory. That is what we are going to discuss in this class. The first part is classical and neoclassical. So classical management theory. So what do you mean by classical? Classical is what do you say? In traditional normal terms, we call it as traditional or old school. That is classical. The main functions is streamlining operations, increasing productivity, enhancing the bottom line. Okay, the main function is streamlining operations. The operations are carried out in such a way it is streamlined and it is monitored properly with the main aim of increasing productivity only without giving much importance to human emotions. That is the classical management theory. You see, classical management theory is based on the belief that workers only have physical and economic needs. Okay, it does not take into account of social needs or job satisfaction. That is, but instead advocates a specialization of labor, centralized leadership and decision making, and profit maximization. In simple words, the main the main aim of classical management theory is to increase productivity and make profit in terms of money. Okay, so it does not take into account whether the employee is satisfied with this job or not. So it happens in most of the IT companies now. The job is, the pay is good, right? But we don't know whether the employee is happy or not. So that is classical management. Only they will give orders. They will give orders, and if you do work, they will give incentives, awards, or something, appraisals. They don't take consider your job emotion. If you want leave, they don't agree. If you do work, they will give money. Simple as that. They don't ask whether you are happy with your job and whether you want leave or something, whether you want a vacation or something. They won't allow. Most probably, that is this type of schools, this type of the management style is called as it was followed in the classical management theory. It is designed solely means mainly, primarily to streamline operation, increase productivity, and enhance the bottom line. The idea came in around 19th century and gained prominence through the first half of 20th century. So I'm not going into history of this. I want you to understand the concept of every theory of management. So in this theory, it leaves out human emotions. Whether the employee likes the job, whether he is satisfied or not, they doesn't care. They only care about the profit of the organization. Okay, that is what classical management theory is all about. The how the concept will be, it will be in the first is hierarchical structure. I told you what is hierarchical, right? There will be a top level manager, right? He is the head of the organization, like CEO or something like that. And the workplaces are divided under three distinct layers of management: top level, middle level, first line managers. Okay, this is how the hierarchical structure will look like. So top level are the owners, board of directors, executive that set the long range objectives of the firm. They will tell that our objective is to improve sales. That is their long range objective, something like that. And middle level management takes on the responsibility of overseeing supervisors, setting the goals at the department level to fit in which confines of the manager's budget, right? So they will give you certain budget. So middle level managers, as I told you, that we can take dean in university system, we can take dean as our example. And in the first line manager, we can take HOD, and the employees, we can take faculties and other non-teaching staffs. So they will oversee from the top that the profit and the objective is achieved. University is not like that. Education institutions are different. I am giving an example. So don't compare classical management theory with education system. I am talking about general style of management. I am giving an example. So how the hierarchical structure will look like in case if we take a university system. Specialization. The classical management theory involves assembly line in the work in view of the workplace, which larger tasks are broken down into smaller ones that are easy to accomplish. So if they are having a big task, means what they will do is they will divide the task into smaller ones. They will assign each task to a specific person. That is called, in software system, they will have a team for a project. They will call team, and the team will be head by a team leader. So each one will be given a task in that particular team. One will do the coding part, one will do the designing part, one will do the testing part. The overall aim is to accomplish the project, to finish the project. So everyone will do their own part. For example, if you students are writing I'm giving you a project to write a good journal, a good research article for a particular journal. So the project, the larger task is to write an article for a good journal, right? So what is the, I am dividing into smaller parts. So Ritesh, you do the introduction part, Abhilash, you do the literature part, Sapnaji, you do the analysis part, Ashish, you do the conclusion part, Ajas, you do the discussion part, other one, Devashish, you do the reference part. So everyone, I am assigning a task in such a way according to their skills and capabilities. So in the end, if we combine everything, we will get the whole article. So that is how the specialization part works. They break the large task into smaller ones to achieve the project easily. If I tell everyone to write articles separately, it will be difficult. So it will be difficult. Everyone cannot do all the works, right? So I plan in such a way that I am giving a single part to according to your knowledge and according to your skill set. So that is called a specialization. Only the area in which you specialize, you will be selected. Incentives. This theory believes employees are motivated by financial rewards. So if I give money, you will work. That is the basis of this theory. Irrespective of whether you like the job or not, you have to work for 7 days, 7 days, 15 hours. I will give you more money. This is the concept of this theory, incentive theory. Only the financial factor is taken into account without considering the human factor, whether his health will be good or not, whether he will be satisfied or not, whether he will be stressed or not, employee will be stressed or not, they will not take into account. That is the concept of incentives, and that is a whole idea of classical classical management. There are flaws means disadvantages. There are flaws in this theory. What are the flaws? We already know that by attempting to predict and control human behavior, this theory overlooks the importance of human relations and creativity. Yes, that's very true, right? They only control you by giving money and giving you task. They will not consider if you are having an emergency, they won't allow you to go. What happens? You will get frustrated eventually. If a manager is not allowing you, if a head is not allowing you to for emergency, in case of what you say, in case of a wedding or something, in case of an important personal work, if he is not giving you leave, he is saying I am paying you money, you work. What will happen? You will get frustrated eventually. It will not taking into human relations. The relationship will be bad between the manager and employee. Even though the owner is paying good money, the relationship is bad because they are using the employee as a as a productive machine. Nothing. They are not considering the human factor. So in essence, this theory views workers almost as machines, as I told earlier. You are a machine. I want you to work 24 hours a day or 15 hours a day. No excuses, no leave, no fever, nothing. Okay. But fails to take into account what job satisfaction, employee input and moral can bring to the workplace. That means you cannot give idea to me. Even though you are right, you cannot give idea. So when a good organization works only when the employee and the owner and the head collaborates. Employee might have a good suggestion. They will not consider in this classical type of management. The reliance on prior experience and the ability to apply it solely to its manufacturer setting is a drawback of another theory. So this is about classical management theory. So we will look into what are the factors in the forthcoming sentence. In a nutshell, you want to know what is classical management is. Only financial incentives and economic needs and profit making is the main aim of this theory of management. It does not take into the consideration of human relations or human behavior. Okay, only the profit will be the ultimate goal of this style of management. So next we are coming to neoclassical organizational theories. Okay, so we saw what is classical, right? Now we will look at what is neoclassical. So neoclassical emphasizes individual or group behavior and social relations in determining productivity. See, it is the exact opposite of classical. It gives importance to individual and group behavior and social relations. It considers the human factor to increase productivity. There are two main sources of this theory: social psychologist and psychologist. See, this social school of thought, this is called a social school. This social school of thought challenged classical theory's assumption that organization were strictly rational and mechanistic entities. See, they are criticizing classical tool that you are not taking human factor into account. Job satisfaction and what do you say? That is more important than money, than productivity. That is what they are trying to say. That is what this new classical theory is all about. Emphasize the role that both the individual and environment can play on shaping organizational goals, policies, and decision making. Yeah, individual as well as environment can play. Individual also can contribute only when he or she is happy. When you are happy, you will do the work properly. When you are not happy with the owner, you will definitely not do the work 100%. That is true. Everywhere it is true. So that is what this neoclassical theory talks about. So the two major approaches of this theory are human relation theory, which is given by Mayo based on Hawthorne experiments, and behaviorist theory, which is given by Maslow, the theory X, Y, and Z, the theory X and Y. So that is what we are going to look into this session. So what is neoclassical theory? As I said earlier, classical theory is only structural. It takes only the structural aspect. It neglects means it leaves out human factor. Only profit making and money making is the ultimate goal of classical. And when you come to neoclassical, it changes. It has human relation approach, behavioral approach, social system approach. So that is the exact opposite. Neoclassical is the exact opposite of classical theory. It considers human factor, the inputs of the individual, in the inputs of the group. If they don't like it, they will talk to the individual. Like, what is the problem? We can sort it out. Like that, they give consideration to human factors. So what is the need? Why is the need for neoclassical theory? So based on my session, you might be able to understand why neoclassical is needed. It is supplement to classical approach rather than a replacement. It is developed as a reaction to the classical principle but did not abandon. Correct. That is true. The neoclassical theory organization embarked on the task of compensating for some of the deficiencies in the classical doctrine. That is true. It doesn't ultimately neglect the classical factor, because ultimately we need the company to make profit so that we get our salaries, right? So, but not at the cost of eliminating human relations, right? Human relations and good condom should be maintained. At the same time, we should make profit. The aim of classical theory is only to make profit without taking human factors. Neoclassical theory is also to make profit, but considering the human relation factors, by talking to the individuals, groups, gaining their inputs also. So that is what this need is for classical theory about. It encompasses all the factors which is missed out by classical theory. So first one is human relation approach. It was given by Elton Mayo. It focused mainly on the people working in an organization. Human is people, right? Whoever works in the organization are considered as a human. It focused only on the people. His theory is human relation development contributed to employee-centric, democratic, participative style of leadership is more efficient. That is true, right? Employee-centric. If the goals are employee-centric, democratic means everyone has a right to share their opinion. That is democracy. Everyone, not only the leader, everyone can share their opinion. Participative style of leadership. For example, if a coach is training his students, he tells the students to run 10 rounds. He tells the players to run 10 rounds as a physical conditioning. If the coach along runs with the students, it's participative. It will be good. Even though the coach doesn't need to run, but if he runs, it will be a good example, right? So participative style of leadership, it will be more efficient when he just sits and instructs, right? So that is what the human relation approach is talking about. Organization is a social system, and the human factor is the most important element of that organization. So in an organization, human factor, it emphasizes on human factor is the vital element. It focuses attention on human beings, how the relationship between employee and the owner, employee and the customer. It focuses on that. The real cause of human behavior is somewhat more than the physiological variables. That is true. Systematic treatment of informal organization did not prescribe any one form of organization structure, but proposed that it can be improved by modifying in accordance with the informal structure. According to the situation, you can modify the needs accordingly. That is the main, what is the main points about human relation approach. It gives in a nutshell, in a simple words, human relation approach considers human factors, the employees, as the important element and as the important part of the organization. Behavioral science, it can also be called as matured version of human relation theory. That is true, the behavior of humans, right? The theory is how the manager should behave and motivate the employees and encourage them to perform at high levels and committed to the achievement of the organization goals. Yeah, if the manager and the owner is friendly, if he understands you, you will definitely, the employee will definitely do good job in return, right? If the manager scolds you all the time, the relationship, the behavior between both the manager and the employee is not good, right? He only asks for work. He is not appreciating what I did, right? So the relationship between the manager and the employee should be in such a way that he motivates them in a positive way to get the work done out of them in order to achieve the organization goal. That is the ultimate aim of the both the theories. So this is the behavioral science approach. Okay, it includes both human resource approach and human behavior approach. Knowledge drawn from behavioral sciences named psychology, sociology, anthropology is applied and explained to predict human behavior. Yeah, it depends upon psychological factors also. Everyone will, not everyone will be same. Like we can see in cricket also. Dhoni is a calm type, whereas Virat Kohli is kind of aggressive. He reacts to things where Dhoni doesn't react. So the psychological variable between these two captains are different, right? So while treating a player, while treating a fellow teammate or fellow organization employee, the manager has to take into consideration the psychological behavior of that particular employee. So this person, what do you say? If you encourage him, he will work. That is the psychological behavior. So encourage him more to do work. So like that. So depending upon the psychological and sociological aspects, the relationship should work in such a way. These are the proponents of behavioral science approach. Organization is a socio-technical system. Individuals behave differently to different stimuli under different conditions. That is true. Not everyone will be the same. The individual behave differently. That is very true. Behave differently to different stimuli under different conditions. Not everyone will be the same, right? So that factor should be taken into account. Personal needs and goals. A wide range of factors includes interpersonal and group behavior of people in organization. So this is the difference between human relation and behavioral science approach. Both comes under neoclassical only, but this is the difference between both. So interpersonal relations, human relations or interpersonal relations, whereas behavioral or group relations. So working conditions, it lays emphasis on the individual, its needs and behavior, whereas behavioral sciences mostly focuses on group behavior, how the group responds to a particular task or something like that. So individual, based on human individual emphasis, there are some theories given by Elton Mayo, Kurt Lewin, etc. Here when we come to behavioral science, there are Maslow theory, McGregor's theory, Herzberg theory, etc. So when we when we compare these two things, behavior science approach has a wider scope than human relations approach, because it takes groups into account. Group means it contains every individual, right? Whereas human relation considers mainly focuses on the individual aspects. So next is social system approach. This theory was given by Chester Bernard. So organization as a social is the linking with each other, right? As a society as a whole. Organization to be as a cooperative system. How you fall within the team or within the group or something. According to Bernard, formal organization is a cooperative system which there are persons able to communicate with each other and willing to contribute towards a common purpose. That is true. When people with the when how people are communicating each other with the group. So everyone will have their idea, right? So I am giving you for example, you are a group of 6 students. I am the manager. Let me take. I am giving you a task to write an article. So you are giving your inputs. You are talking within the group to improve how to make this article effectively. Though I have given you separate tasks like introduction, literature, every part, but you are helping others and you are contributing your knowledge so that the article comes out good. That is our common purpose. That doesn't mean you have to. It is not a competition between individuals. It is a competition to achieve the Overall goal. The overall goal is to write a good article. The competition between individuals is who wrote introduction well, who wrote literature review well. That is not a competition. The competition is you have to combine everything, every part what I have given to you to make the article come good. So you discuss together in such a way, in a positive way, that the article comes out good. So organization structure depends on the manager ability to obtain cooperation from the organization members. That is very true. As a manager, I should able to get your inputs. You can give ideas. So introduction, if you add this, this will be good. If you add in the literature review this reference, this will be good. So like that. So I have to make sure that everyone cooperates and writes and do their parts, do their jobs perfectly, so that the article comes out good. The ultimate goal is achieved. So this is about the social systems approach. So neoclassical theory in a nutshell. Nutshell means in a summary. It is a social system, existence of informal organization, social environment. Group plays an important role. See, group plays an important role in determining the attitudes and performance of individual workers. Goal conflict, both-way communication. Yeah, both-way communication. That is important. The employees also communicate to the manager, whereas the manager also, owner also communicate with the employees. Money is not the sole motivator. Human relations, human behavior is also taken into account. So this is about neoclassical theory in a nutshell. So these are the modification over classical theory. So what the neoclassical theory actually applies, it has a flat structure, not a single leader. There is a leader, but the structure is so flat that everyone can participate in. Decentralization. Decentralization means I am subordinating certain works to you. So I cannot control the entire university, right? So vice chancellor cannot control the entire university. So there are decentralization powers to HODs, deans, faculties to certain extent to get the work done, and informal organization. So these are the main elements of neoclassical: individual, work group, participative management, orientation, motivation, leadership, and employee development. These are the key elements of neoclassical theory, and we will see what these elements are. So this theory recognized individual differences which were ignored in the classical theory. Every individual has emotions, feelings, attitudes, hopes, aspirations, and expectations. That is true, right? He might be joined with certain aspiration. In the classical theory, they don't consider any individual emotions. The main aim is to make profit and enhance productivity and make money, right? So here the individual's emotions and feelings is given consideration in this theory. So that is an important element. So work group, an individual in a group develops social bonds. He is a social being. He develops desire to belong, to be accepted by his work group, right? If you are in a group, you should be welcomed by other members in the group. That is what an individual wants. If a group eliminates a particular individual, he is not good. That is not right. That is not what that is not what he wants actually. Everyone should participate in a group and he should be welcomed. If a new member joins in the group, the existing member welcomes the new member in such a way that he feels comfortable. He or she feels comfortable to work with that group. So that is the important element of, that is the role of work group. So participative management, as I told you earlier with an example of coach jogging with his students, right? Workers' participation in management for improving their productivity, right? So workers should participate. So the ultimate aim is to what do you say, in case of our library, improve the library services. So all the library staff should participate together and fix and sort out a plan. So how to achieve this objective to bring the users come to the library. And orientation. Classical theory was job oriented while neoclassical theory is employee oriented. Simple. Yeah, that is true. Classical theory focuses, as I told earlier, focuses only on profit making. It's only on job, only getting the job done. I will give you instruction, you have to do the work. Neoclassical is employee oriented. It takes your what do you say, your psychological factors and sociological factors into account, right? Motivation. It motivates as a social system. The employees could be motivated by social and psychological ones, not by socially economic needs. If you are, what do you say, if you are having some fever or if you are having some health issues, as a manager, oh, I understand you just take 1 week off and you come back next week fresh. So these psychological factors are taken into account by motivating the employee. So the employee feels happy. So the manager understands me, is giving me leave. So that is what important in this motivation factor of neoclassical theory. Leadership. Democratic style of leadership is essential, right? To achieve the cooperative attitude of employee towards management. Democratic means everyone has a say in the system. Autocratic means only the leader will give instruction, the employee will just follow the instruction without replying, and without reverting back. Whereas democratic, if the leader is sometimes wrong, the employee has the right to say, he can voice his opinion. Sir, this is, if we try this system, this will be good. If we try this method, this will be good. This is a democratic, and the leader welcomes these good suggestions. So this kind of leadership will be always effective. Employee development, and there is a close connection between moral protection and neoclassical writers that emphasize that management must take greater interest in employee development, worker satisfaction, right? So when you are doing your work, and if you are doing your work properly and the company is getting its profit, and the employee should be promoted accordingly, right? The development, there should be, you cannot do the same job for many long years. So the owner should give promotions to make you to move you to the next level. So there is growth for employee development in this kind of neoclassical theory. So this is the distinction. Distinction is the difference between classical and neoclassical approach. Again, as I told earlier, classical, in simple words, it solely relies on profit and economic needs, whereas it takes into emotions of human and qualities of workers also. It is mechanistic, impersonal and mechanistic. It considers humans as mission, whereas here it considers individuals as a part of social system. Autocratic management, democratic management, right? Discipline and rationality, personal security and social demand. Discipline means you should not talk anything back to me, only you should follow the instruction. That kind of disciplinarity. And maximum remuneration and reward. They will give money in classical approach, but without taking the factor of human emotions. Here, attainment of organizational goal, economic being, social being. See the differences. So this is the difference between these two. So this is the reference for which this PPT has been prepared, right? So when you are free, you can go through these links, so you can get a broader understanding of this particular theory, neoclassical and neoclassical. So this is all about the classical and neoclassical theory.